Being just cleaned and opened up a month ago. Looks like nothing was done. It's real nasty.
The pool was closed for almost 2 years and underwent a $34 million renovation project.
It'd be nice if it was clearer water so that one could reflect without seeing the algae.
The first thought was, oh, that's kind of nasty.
You believe that algae didn't exist when Barack Obama was the president. Is that right?
I believe that once he invested in the beautification of that specific part, what we did not see was a takeover that was blue and green within 36 to 48 hours after the investment happened. Because we just didn't see anything happen.
Just for the record, for 1.6 billion years, algae has existed in stagnant pools on planet Earth, but not during the Obama administration.
What I'm saying is that it was treated, which is what Donald Trump could have done before he invested millions of American taxpayer dollars when Americans are fighting to put food on the tables for their families.
I learned something tonight. I didn't realize that President Obama had cured algae when for 1.6 billion years algae had been undefeated. So I've learned something this evening. Look, here's the deal. It's not,
can I say that I think part of it was that the president was coming out and he has talked about these projects so much. I mean, he's not just like, this isn't just other people bringing up what he's doing in Washington with the ballroom and the reflecting pool. He brings them up pretty much every chance he's in front of cameras. But he was the one who said they wouldn't have algae, they wouldn't have this, that they were going to fix this. And then I think it's not just the algae, it's the fact that the paint is peeling off and all of that. And now he's blaming it on vandals, but I'm not totally sure that that's the reason that the pool is having issues.
It's the incompetence of the contractor he chose.
The pool is having issues because it is a stagnant pool of water in the summer in the middle of a swamp. You're never going to defeat all the algae. The pool did need a renovation. And when they put these nano bubblers in, I think it's going to help cure the algae. But you know what? For 1.6
Scott,
billion
what is a
years
nano
in hot
bubbler?
sunny places, algae has existed.
Since you looked it up today, what is a nano bubbler?
I have no idea. I just know that it apparently cleans up the algae. And I also think it would be a great name for an indie rock band, Nano Bubblers. Either way, I learned something this week. You can put these things in the water. Look, I'll tell you this. I fight algae every day. I have chickens and I have these watering jugs in the coops. They get green every day. Now, it doesn't hurt the chickens, but I got to clean them up. I know all too well. I feel for the president. Trying to clean up algae out of a pool of water in the summertime is a hard thing to do.
Can we fight the American hunger crisis? I mean, that's what people are asking for. The American hunger crisis and housing affordability. Again, the president really needs to prioritize what matters to everyday Americans.
Amisha Cross,
people can do
Scott
two things
Jennings.
at the same time. The hospital does not have to be a cesspool and a crap hole. It can be safe and it can be clean and we can have a good economy. All these things are possible with a president with enough imagination.
And not to mention, to add what Scott Jennings just said, federal land can be clean, which is basically Washington, D.C. has the White House, obviously, which is the highest position, the most powerful position on the land. So why wouldn't it be clean? Look, man, godliness is cleanliness. But what's up, family? Listen. We just finished a $14.8 million renovation on the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. A beautiful blue liner shaped like the American flag, right? Brand new. Fresh paint, everything looked clean. People were actually happy because it was looking clean to see DC being taken care of. Federal land. Then within the days, it's destroyed. The mainstream media wants you to think this is about algae. Like algae just happens by accident in the summer heat. But that's a lie. There is arrests. There is evidence of sabotage. And we need to talk about the real story because nobody else is telling you the truth straight up. Now, here's what CNN wants you to focus on. They keep running these stories about how the green the water is, how bad it looks, how they're dumping hydrogen peroxide trying to fix it. One reporter literally dipped a bottle in the pool to show you how green it was. That's journalism. That's what they are covering. The algae, the discoloration. Trump said it would be beautiful, so now they're roasting him because the water turned green. But you know what? For 1.6 billion years, algae has existed in stagnant pools of water on this planet. 1.6 billion years. Algae has been winning that fight since before humans even existed. So why is CNN acting like Trump should have conquered something nature has never conquered? The real question they should be asking is completely different. How did phosphate levels in that water get higher than normal? Who put those chemicals there? Stagnant water in summer heat doesn't just create algae blooms by accident. You need fertilizer, nutrients, something to feed that growth. CNN's own expert mentioned phosphate levels were far higher than recommended. So ask yourself, family, why would that be? But that's not what they're asking. They're not investigating that angle at all. What they're also not covering is what's obvious when you look at the pool. There are clean cuts in the liner at the bottom, not tears from age or renovation problems, cut marks. But let's get to the second clip.
Lincoln Memorial's reflecting pool, what he called the American flag blue. That's the color he wanted for the water, but right now it's green as heck. The more than $14 million renovation was completed just over a week ago, and yesterday, crews of parks workers were spotted dumping gallons of hydrogen peroxide in there to try to get rid of the growth. One worker tells CNN it will take, quote, an entire lifetime to fix, but this issue is not new. CNN's Betsy Klein joining me now. Betsy, this is certainly not the color they wanted. There is already criticism about spending this kind of money on this particular project. What are you learning?
Well, Sarah, it's been just over a week since that $13 million renovation project to drain, repair, paint, and refill the 6.5 million gallon Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool was completed. But almost immediately, a major problem came to the surface. That is algae, the pool growing increasingly murky and green by the day. And CNN even took an independent sample of this water last week. We consulted with a pool store. It showed that phosphate levels were far higher than what's recommended to keep algae at bay. And since then, it only got greener. Our colleague Sunlen Sarfati spoke with an algae expert, and he offered an assessment. Listen.
We're in Washington, D.C. in the summertime. This is a shallow pool with stagnant water, abundant sunlight. That it creates a situation where opportunistic algae can really take advantage of the situation. If there's already some phosphate fertilizer in the water,
the reflecting pool water, that is, less than 2 weeks after a nearly $15 million renovation wrapped up, the water in front of Washington's Lincoln Memorial is green again. Parts of the historic pool's new paint job have even been peeling away. But the Trump administration, which granted the no-bid renovation, by the way, says all that green you're seeing just isn't true. In a post on social media, the Interior Department, which oversees the reflecting pool, claims the water is, quote, crystal clear. But CNN went out ourselves yesterday to see it. And our Sunlen Sarfati, as you see, dipped a bottle into the pool, filling it with, as you can see, water that has a clear green tint. Just earlier this month, President Trump.
So this is the clean cut, it looks like I'm talking about, right? You look under the water. You see how it's all torn up? Or lifting up because of the cuts. You can see the lining of it being carved out. There you have that. So there are clean cuts you just seen in the liner at the bottom, not tears from age or renovation problems, cut marks. The paint is peeling in very specific ways. This isn't random deterioration. Trump said vandals used chemicals to damage the surface, family. Can you imagine that? The same way chemicals were used on the National Mall. And you had actual protesters showing up chanting, "Algae is not the mother." Don't take my word for it.
Algae smarter than MAGA. Algae smarter than MAGA. Algae smarter than MAGA. Algae smarter than MAGA. Algae, let's go. 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 Let's go. Algae, let's go. Let's go. Algae, let's go. Let's go. Algae. God sent the algae. Don't play God.
So there you have it. Protesters. God sent the algae. These people were literally celebrating the pool's failure. They wanted it destroyed, but CNN doesn't want to talk about that. They don't want to investigate whether someone deliberately sabotaged this project because they hate Trump more than they love the country, this country. That would complicate their narrative. It's easier to show you green water and blame the president. The pool was closed for almost 2 years for this renovation, $14.8 million. Trump gets it reopened, like looking beautiful, and within days there's damage and algae. The media could ask, is someone deliberately trying to sabotage this? Instead, they ask, why is Trump bad at pools? That's the difference between real journalism and what we're seeing. They want you angry at the wrong person, family. So then I want you guys to see, because it gets more specific. 3 days after the pool reopened, someone carved 8647, quote unquote, into the grass right outside. That's not random graffiti.
A man jumped in the reflecting pool today with all these crowds around, cut out a huge piece of the blue sealant, and tried to get away, but he was arrested.
Vantage point, we can see down the National Mall. The numbers 8647 appeared in the green grass not far from the World War II memorial. We don't know how extensive this damage is and whether this is easily repairable, but it's not just the vandalism that's notable, it's the message. 8647 has become a mainstream way to show disgust with President Trump. 86 usually means to axe or kill something, usually used in the restaurant industry, and 47 traditionally references President Trump, as he's both the 45th and 47th president. We got a statement from the Department of Interior which says the deranged vandalism on our National Mall will not be tolerated. Any threat against the president is taken very seriously by the department, and our U.S. Park Police will investigate this incident and hold those responsible accountable. Now, the most notable incident of 8647 trend came after former FBI Director James Comey posted this on Instagram back in 2025. It's the same message, but made out of seashells. The Justice Department says it considers it a threat on Trump.
So there you guys have it. You seen 8647 in the grass right outside of the Lincoln Memorial Pool. That's not random graffiti. That's a message. 86 means remove or get rid of, as you heard. 47 is Trump as the 47th president. So somebody etched the threat out into the ground at one of the most sacred spaces in this country. That's not teenagers messing around. That's deliberate. That's a statement. And the mainstream media barely touched it. That's why I wanted to add that into this segment, talking about the reflective pool and things like that. Add into this because I think that's also an important context to add into this. But they didn't connect the dots between that message and what started happening to the pool itself. You just have coordinated vandalism as you see happening and a sequence of events very rapidly from the White House lawn down to the pool. You got a message telling people what to do. You got the actual damage happening days later. That's a pattern. That's organization. Look at the physical evidence. The liner has specific cuts. The paint is peeling in ways that don't match natural wear or renovation mistakes. When you drain a pool and refill it, yeah, sometimes things shift. Sometimes small issues pop up, but this isn't that. This is targeted damage. Someone got into that water and deliberately cut sections of that liner. Someone applied chemicals to accelerate the algae bloom. You don't get phosphate levels that high by accident. You don't get that bloom that fast without help. The park workers themselves said it would take an entire lifetime to fix, as you heard. And that's what they told CNN, an entire lifetime. That's not poor maintenance, that's devastation. And the people doing this weren't hiding. You had protesters show up at the pool celebrating the damage I showed you, chanting about algae like it was some kind of victory. These aren't environmental activists concerned about water quality. And what happened to that? You know, Democrats was big on air quality and air and water. And you seen in California, literally Gavin Newsom was holding fish for the safety of the water and things like that and water quality. Interesting. Not to get off topic, but these are people rooting for failure. They wanted Trump to look bad. They wanted the beautiful project to fall apart in front of the cameras. So they help They helped make it happen. That's the mentality we're dealing with. It's not about the environment. It's not about legitimate concerns. It's about sabotage dressed up as protests. Trump came out and said it directly. Vandals damaged the surface using chemicals. The same tactics used on the National Mall. The same pattern of deliberate destruction. The administration officials call it what it was, a threat. But the media didn't want that story. They didn't want to investigate it. They didn't want to ask the obvious question: who had access? Who organized this? Who carved that message and then executed the plan? Because once you start asking those questions, you're not blaming Trump for algae anymore. You're exposing that there are people in this country willing to destroy public property, willing to trash a national landmark, willing to sabotage their own country's beautification just to make one person look bad. That's a much bigger story than green water. That's about the state of our nation. That's about what people are willing to do when hatred becomes their primary motivation, and they got caught doing it, as you guys can see here. So you guys get it. As you guys can see here on this X post, another man detained accused of ripping a Lincoln reflecting pool ceiling off the bottom of the pool. Self-explanatory, right? Moves us to our next segment of arrest. He cuts out a big piece of the new American flag blue sealant at the Lincoln reflecting pool. Another man was arrested for grabbing a hose from a female worker, clearing the algae.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get a case number for you. We'll do it. What's happening? Can I help? Huh? Can you help? I think that's really funny. I think that's a joke. It's funny.
And for those who don't know what NPS is here, highlighted on the screen, is basically nitrogen and phosphorus. A nitrogen and phosphorus worker, basically clearing the algae because they know the things that feed algae, and they also can work on algae prevention, as you guys clearly can see, in which someone wanted to grab the hose and stop the female worker.
Yes, go grab one. Don't eat it.
All right, so you guys get the point, right? The madness. Bingo. So now brings us to this New York Post article here, as I like to cite my sources. American Olympic canoeist arrested for allegedly vandalizing Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Family. Can't make this stuff up. A former U.S. Olympian arrested for allegedly vandalizing a Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. David Hearn, a 3-time Olympic canoeist, he sounds familiar, was cycling past the monument on Friday when he said he stopped and noticed a piece of the pool's liner floating in the water. President Trump announced that, quote, many additional people have also been arrested in connection to the disgraceful vandalism. What these terrible vandals have done is a true effort as a true affront to both President George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and should be dealt with accordingly. Trump posted on Truth Social Saturday. Trump claimed that the vandals poured destructive chemicals into the pool, that it would have to be drained so that repairs could be made. The reflective pool was never so beautiful as it was just 1 week ago, even going back to 1922 when it opened. We are very proud of what we have done with this magnificent structure, and we will get it repaired quickly to an equal level of beauty, Trump wrote. He blamed the vandals of the current dismal state of the reflecting pool just weeks after a $14.8 million restoration project was completed. He vowed to have the pool repaired as quickly as possible. Additionally, the grass at the National Mall was defaced after with giant etchings on the numbers 8647. We covered that, family. The numerical phrase came into prominence after former FBI Director James Comey posted a picture with the numbers written in seashells on Instagram in May 2025. Comey was indicted in April and charged of allegedly threatening to kill President Trump. 86 is common restaurant slang, as you guys know, meaning a person should be ejected from the establishment or an item should be disposed of. Hearn, 67, claimed to the Washington Post he reached out and touched the detached piece and let it go after a worker told him to. He was then taken into custody by Park Police. Video of the incident went viral, with Hearn shown looking bewildered as he confronted by members of the National Guard and then put in cuffs by U.S. Park Police. I didn't vandalize anything, Hearn told the Washington Post. That is David Hearn, family, that I showed you guys in the X post already of him getting arrested. So, what you need to know about what actually happened, people got arrested for vandalizing the pool. Not one person, but multiple arrests, as I showed you. The first one was straightforward. Activists jumped into the pool in broad daylight with crowds around, cut out a huge piece of the blue ceiling they just installed, tried to walk away. Parks Police arrested him on the spot. That's on video. That's documented, as you guys have seen. We covered it. That's a vandalism caught and prosecuted. But here's where CNN deep dive. Where's CNN deep dive on that? Where's their deep dive? Where's the investigation into what sent him there? Who organized it? Who funded it? Nothing. They don't want that story because it proves the point. People are deliberately destroying this. Then you got right here the Olympic cyclist David Hearn, 3-time Olympic canoeist, 67 years old. He's cycling past the pool and stops, and he saw the piece of liner floating and then reached out to touch it. That's his story. He was just curious. He was just concerned. He reached out to grab this already peeling piece. But here's the thing. The video told differently. You see him confronted by National Guard here on the screen. You see him being put in handcuffs by Park Police. He's standing there looking bewildered, saying he didn't vandalize anything, but he got arrested. And his convenient explanation doesn't match that situation. He happened to be there. He happened to see this piece. He happened to grab it all to that exact moment when someone could document him doing it. The timing is too clean. The excuse is too neat. Whether he actually removed anything or not, he was part of the operation. He was positioned there. What's important is the pattern you're seeing. These aren't random acts. These aren't isolated incidents. You got coordinated action. You got people positioned at the site. You got vandalism being documented and then arrests being made. The media could connect those dots. They could ask who organized this, who sent these people there, who's funding this operation, but they don't ask those questions because the answers would reveal something uncomfortable. That's why they don't want to ask. It will prove that hatred is organized. It will show that people in this country are willing to work together to plan to execute a strategy of destruction against their own nation's landmarks just to damage one political figure. That's the story the mainstream won't touch. The fact that people got arrested proves Trump wasn't lying. He wasn't making excuses. He was telling the truth. Vandals are actively damaging the pool. People are deliberately trying to sabotage this project. And when you actually look at who's doing it and why, you see the real issue staring in your face. It's staring you right in the face. These people hate Trump more than they love the country. They're willing to get arrested, willing to face charges, willing to destroy public property and make it their business to do so when they could be doing anything else with the freedoms they have in this beautiful country. All because they want him to fail so badly they can't help themselves. That's the mentality. That's what we're dealing with here. And the mainstream media won't report it because it contradicts their narrative. It shows that the actual villains in this story aren't negligent contractors or natural algae blooms. The villains are American citizens actively working against their own nation's interests. I'm just reporting it as a true journalist. I try to be to the utmost ability because the media won't report on the trueness of it. And we just having a conversation. I'm not telling you what to think or how to think, but it's just mind blowing. With the freedoms of this beautiful country, enjoy yourself, cycle away. And you're an Olympian. You represent this country so amazingly. And with your gift and talent, being in the Olympics as a canoeist, 67 years old. Listen, family, this stops being about a pool now. This stops being about algae or paint, or rather, some Olympic cyclist was just being curious. This is about something much deeper. This is about hatred, is my point I want to touch on. Pure hatred, which could be dangerous for anyone and everyone, family members, relationships, loved ones, all of it. People are so committed. And this example of seeing the president, whether you like him or not, or disagree with him, or you agree with certain things, but to see our president, currently happens to be Donald Trump, fail that they're destroying national landmarks to make it happen. They're willing to deface the grass at the Lincoln Memorial. They're willing to poison the water. They're willing to cut the liner and damage the surface, all to sabotage a beautification project that was meant to make DC somewhere people actually want to be. That's the question we need to ask ourselves. When did we become a country where people destroy beautiful things just because the person in charge created them? Or I should say, renovated it? When did we lose the ability to separate our disagreements from our respect for shared spaces? You can think a president is wrong. You can vote against him. You can protest peacefully. But destroy a national monument is where I'm at with it, family. That's my whole point in this whole thing, in this conversation we having together. That's different. And comment below if you think otherwise, that it's not different, as we just having a conversation respectfully and civilly. But that's a sickness in the culture. A beautiful project gets completed and celebrated for maybe a week before it gets deliberately trashed. That's not politics. That's destruction as a value. That's nihilism dressed up as activism, I guess. We're letting it happen because the media won't call it what it is. They won't name it. They won't hold people accountable for it. They'll show you green water and blame the administration instead of asking who poisoned it. And you know what bothers me the most? We're showing a whole generation, the younger generation coming up next, that destruction is valid, that it's okay, that tearing things down is acceptable when you disagree. But real character is built in those private moments. What you do when nobody's watching defines who you actually are. Right now, people are actively making choices that reveal something very dark about them. The Bible tells us to let love supersede hate. That's what I'm always advocating for. I say it at the end of every video, family. Let the love supersede the hate. That's the standard. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate, family. Peace.